Welcome, everybody, to this recording of the Inner Lenses. Erika will tell us in a moment what number we're at because I forgot to ask before we started. We are today looking at this being the 21st of October, and that's when this episode's going to drop. And out of the many national days, we could have had National Pumpkin Cheesecake Day. We decided to have a look at National Day of Back to the Future. It's probably a movie that most of our single listener will have seen. And it also touches on other themes like why do we let things linger, and also unrequited love. So here we are. We've got 3i Atlas, this interstellar comet hiding from us behind the sun. Could be a time machine, we just don't know. We've got little Marty McFly, and we've got this thing where our hearts get broken, and we sometimes let that linger for anything up to 40 years. So if you're listening, Joanne Clark and Gregory Williams, I've not forgotten how my girlfriend from break in the morning was stolen at lunchtime in a game of kiss chase. Don't think you're getting away with it. No. When JD Pritzker was on this morning and he said, in 3 years' time, when we've got a different government, we won't have forgotten these crimes. I'm in the same boat. Kiss chase. Caught you on the playing field and you turned around and said, I wish it was Gregory. And as I walked away, you went and kissed him.
Oh, that's a part of the story I didn't know. That hurts my heart, even hearing that. I need reference. First of all, this is episode 69 to answer your question and
69,
where we're at.
for Christ's sake.
Exactly. Things are lining up perfectly for this episode. We're a little off the rails today, everybody, before we even started talking. So who knows what you're going to get. But back to this story, back to the future, back to your story. How old were you exactly? This is the first piece of information.
I believe I was 10.
Oh.
And I walked home. Do you know what? I can still remember Joanne Clark's address. So I won't give you the number.
We're going to put Joanne Clark on full blast right now.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody wants to look at me from a modern applied psychology perspective and say, how present is your past? Tascombe Way, Eastbourne, 1981-ish. That's how present my past is.
Wow. So can you, in brief, describe for us, I mean, you gave us the story here, right? About you were in love at break, and then by lunchtime, it was all over. Like, that's the quickest love affair ever to have happened, first of all. But you were all in to this love affair, and you thought it was reciprocal until you witnessed for yourself and heard her say, I'd rather go with him.
Yes. Yeah.
What can you tap in as you're here, 40 years later, to what that felt like? Like, can you describe for us what that felt like for you? Because I think it might help us understand why things linger, right? Like, why it lingers.
Absolute devastation. I was, for a couple of hours, on the wings of love. There were little wings on my feet, and everything about school for those 2 hours seemed so much better. And I was really excited come lunchtime, and Gregory Williams was invited to play. Gregory had to have surgery to pull his ears back because they were sticky out. He had big buck teeth, and he was the kid that was like really annoying. He would sneeze in class, and he would jump up out of his seat and do a whole hatchoo, and people would laugh. It drove me nuts. This is probably where my dislike of sort of overconfident people comes from, and also my patterns in relationships of pursuing people who were not available to me, or who gave their affections elsewhere while they were in relationship with me. So you two mofos, 44 years later.
And here we thought it was all mom and dad's fault. Now,
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm wondering if I need to make some apologies. Unfortunately, my father died before I could do so.
all
But
kidding aside, because you very aptly described Gregory Williams and all of his whatever. This is does this play a part? I'm trying to get serious here about how what we perceive, right? Like you perceived her picking somebody else who, in your description and your understanding, was not a better choice than you, right? Given all of these other things. So it's like comparison comes into play here. Does that add to why things linger? Is it if we let go of the comparison, would that lingering be able to go when we experience a heartbreak like this or unrequited love of some type? I don't know. It's a question. We have other people here who can give their personal experiences around if this has ever happened to them, or unrequited love of any type, and if there's a link between comparing to the other girl. If it was me, like, oh, he liked her better than me, what does she have that I don't have, kind of thing, and why does that make my heart feel more broken? Open to the floor, gentlemen.
I can't help but wonder if age really doesn't matter here to that extent, right? Because most of our memories that we have, most of the ones that stay with us, are tied to heavy emotion. It's just maybe that when we're younger, we're open, more susceptible to those emotions because we either haven't experienced them as frequently, or they are to us, since life is so much simpler, more impactful, and heavier. So we can remember something from 40 plus years ago. I can remember one of my first memories was when I was 2, because there was an emotion attached to it. There's no other reason why I should have that logged away in my brain. But taking the age out of that, right? It almost doesn't matter that it was a playground kind of love, right? At the moment, it was that emotional stepping stone in that sense. So comparison wise, right? As we get older and we do the comparisons, I'm curious about that, Erika, right? As you're talking about it, right? Because comparison can take on many forms in that sense. Is a comparison about how I feel with this individual? Is it a comparison of, oh, they're blonde, they're brunette, they're tall, they're short, and to start somehow structuring a quality overall of this person? What is the comparison, and what categories do we tend to default to when making those comparisons? Because I think sometimes, you can have a stronger emotional attachment, but then if it's a heavier heartbreak, you might say, I'm going to stick away from blondes from now on. And I know it sounds like I'm making a joke, but you might try to come up with some of the physical characteristics and link them to the heaviness of the emotion, and then that can maybe make you go the other direction. I don't know, right? It's kind of all of that's an interesting interplay for me.
I mean, because we've mentioned Back to the Future, Marty McFly turns up. He's a bit more extrovert. He's got stuff going on. I mean, he causes mayhem in the town. And yeah, there's a real possibility in the most awkward of ways that he might get together with his mum. That's certainly her plan. And he has to engineer her liking this dork. I'm not going to draw any comparisons to say that Gregory Williams was a dork, and he could be doing amazing things in his life now. I hope not, but he, his dorkiness was perhaps more of an attraction. So that whole returning and helping something be different, I mean, that that's exactly what therapy would be for that relationship that lingers for me. It would be going back to change the future, removing those powerful anchors of emotion, and perhaps helping break that pattern that, in truth, and I'm serious here, has been something for me of pursuing people who do not return either the depth or the intensity that I bring to a relationship.
Alec, do you think that would change if 5 minutes after running after Gregory, she ran for somebody else and you weren't aware of it? I mean, it'd be different if they're married today and have a family and all of that. An entire life has been built since 10 years old up till now, as opposed to, does that make a difference if you were to think about it contextually that way?
What it does bring up is older experiences where, I'd perhaps been dumped, and then, the next guy that was the notch on the lipstick case, and I have ended up going for a beer, and we've sort of like exchanged notes and agreed that we're both better off without whoever. I could name a name, but I'm not going to. And yeah, it's kind of a guy thing. Even like your girl cheats on you with one of your friends, at some point you'll probably smack it out of each other, and then it'll be done. And it's like, yeah, okay, I'm over that. So would it have been? I also want to say for the record, I've put myself in this memory deliberately. I'm really not hung up on this. I think you protest too much, Mr. Webb.
Totally. It's like, okay, who are you telling that? For whose benefit are you saying that, sir? Exactly. Brett, do you have anything to add to this specific,
Brett has never. He was.
Do you have any unrequited love in your life at all, sir?
Let's see. But of course.
Do tell.
I don't know if I had when I had, say, a friend that slept with somebody that I was with, it was kind of doing me a favor, showing me that that person wasn't meant to be with me, right? And they weren't true enough to be my partner, right? So I kind of took it the other way, where if she can be swayed like that, well, then she wasn't worth my time, and it's just time to move on, right? So then it really wasn't what I thought it was, or you know what I mean. I tend to go in that direction for some reason. I don't know what's in my past that gave me that, but it is, and not saying that it's that easy, right? Because you still feel it, but it's like, well, all right, well, at least it happened now, and I know that she's not worth my time, and now you move on from that. So yeah, I mean, who doesn't go through it? I think we're meant to go through all the hard times in order to build who we are. And then there's an opportunity to look back and grow from the experiences that we have, right? It's no different than anything else. You have to fail at things in order to know what you really want, right? So even if it's a relationship and it's a failed relationship, when we look at that relationship, what was it that failed? What part of it wasn't good? What role did I play in that? Right? Could I have been better in certain ways? Or, so relationships, I feel like, are just another part of life that's just there to kind of grow us in a direction, and kind of try to navigate us to where we want to be. And the hardest part, that when we're so young, is knowing how much power we have in decision and how things are going to be. We're not aware of all of that at that age. So it lands so much harder because things are so simple. So, yeah, I don't know where I'm really going with this, just sharing.
I'm curious. Go ahead, Alec. You were going to go
No, I
first.
just wanted to say that, I kind of owe you an apology, Brett, in that, I make an assumption, witnessing your confidence in starting conversations with either gender, and, your handsomeness, there's a judgment in there. And, what you said about recognizing these things as growth opportunities when you were younger, I mean, that's a much more powerful experience that you can pass on to somebody else about how to go through breakup. The kind of responses I got Erika would very much put in with grief, those kinds of platitudes. So thank you. Erika, you were curious, but we also need to know who you kissed in Kiss Chase at lunchtime.
Oh, so at lunchtime, kiss and tag, whatever that was called, whatever that was called. I was a tomboy, and I was athletic. So all the little girly girls that had crushes on the boys would I was like for hire. I'd have to run and get the boys and be like, here he is, do whatever you want with him. Because I'm not interested. Because I was faster than the boys. So whatever, that's how that worked out. What I'm curious about is we're speaking of this unrequited love concept, right? When you hear that, it's always 9 out of 10 romantic love that we're talking about, right? Like the crush on the playground, or, somebody who you really care for, who just doesn't feel the same way for you. But I'm curious to know if unrequited love can also be applied to just love in general, right? Like the love that we're seeking from somebody that we are not getting back, right? From family, from friends, like from anybody like that. And probably in our formative years, that is the earliest experience we have with not getting the love back the way that we would like to experience it. And I'm wondering if the lack of that, I'm not wondering, I know it does, informs the way that we then go forward and process it with romantic love, right? So it's like you're seeking, and then your heart gets broken at a devastating level, and we just don't know what to do with it. We just don't know what to do with that. So part of the way we started this was, why do we let it linger? And my question is, do we really actively let it linger, or we just don't know how to get it to stop hurting?
Well, it kind of comes down to definition too, doesn't it? Right? I mean, if you have a parent who, relatively speaking, by other comparison, is a neglectful parent, but as a child you knew different, you probably wouldn't be pining for some sort of different sense of love from that parent. But if you go to your best friend's house and there are cookies and hugs and kisses and tucking in and singing songs, suddenly you're aware of the difference. And your definition, it makes me wonder how much of this is set on our definition of love, or our definition of what that looks like, in how we receive it, how we offer it, things of that nature, that causes it to fester so deeply. I mean, I think unrequited love might have been more commonly accepted as just as a norm. And not to go back to the romantic side, right? But I mean, you talk about, especially in literature, courtly love, right? Where you had knights and you had people who were in love with maidens who that was never going to happen. And they knew that, and yet they still embraced it. They didn't reject it. It kind of became a part, because at least you knew what it felt like. At least you knew it existed and that it was real. So, but to go back to that parental example, I wonder if part of this comes out of a sense of personal development, of course, but coping mechanisms, if you will, and how you deal with unrequited feelings of any sort. And yeah, how does that shape you? That's we don't have enough time today to talk about that, I think, really.
I based on something that you said about, like, if you have a neglectful parent, but you only know what you know, right? You don't know any better. Logically, you don't know any better, because this is the way that it is, until you see your friend who has parents that are doting on it, right? So logically, I think, though, we do know. Our heart knows that we're not getting the love that we should be getting. Our heart knows it. Our heart keeps it. And that is what continues to get touched every time you have an experience like what Alex said, on the playground, or as we get older. It goes back to the knowing, the definite knowing. Even as a kid, you might not have a frame of reference, but there's something that is just not right about the love that I'm supposed to be getting. And I think it's because logically we bypass it and we override it. So we never address those feelings. And that is why it lingers. That, in my personal opinion, that's why it lingers. That's why the older you get, the deeper the heartbreak is, the harder it is to come out of it or to recover from it. I don't even like that word, but that's why I personally think heartbreaks linger like that, because it's old stuff that we know that we don't know how to process.
I think with personal development comes an expanded consciousness of love. I could probably count on one hand the number of times the words "I love you" was uttered in my family home as children. I don't remember it at all. And it was weird when I realised that I had love in my heart for my friends. You know, I tell Erika and Brett I love them. When I hug them, when I see them in person, you know, I have love of different types for so much that is now in my life. And it is that, I think, that has really allowed me to move on, because I can even go inside, you know, if we're talking about parts integration or timelines, you know, I can go inside now and love that young version of me, who was so excited to be picked, to have a moment in, you know, the spotlight of somebody else's life.
Can I ask a question? Just pose a curiosity: is how often do we think people regret the love, or regret that the love didn't continue? Because I'd be willing to bet many people don't regret the experience of having those feelings towards somebody. That itself was joyful, hopefully pleasurable, something that made us feel stronger. It's in the not being returned, or the potential of what we thought maybe or hoped could have been if it had been returned, that we lament.
Which takes us squarely into Erika's grief territory, or not just Erika's. There are other people in the world that understand things about grief, but she is our grief chick. Because it's something that you want, that you reach for, that is not there for you. It occurs to me that in my over-exuberance at the start, I forgot to introduce, for his first time as an Inner Lenses attendee, Tim Klecker. So I'm going to come to you, Tim, and you can head up our wrap-up comments. What have you got for us?
Oh, there's so much here, and I really appreciate the chance to be here to have a conversation. But so many different directions we could go. We could talk about how do we cope with these things? How do they actually make us stronger? How have they maybe made us feel weaker? How have they impacted how we proceed and approach other relationships, not just romantic relationships? How does it change or impact what we look for in a partner? Or even when we get into a relationship as time goes on, and we all know, right, there's the honeymoonish phase, and then it sometimes goes into places most of us don't intend it to go negatively, and then we get divorced or break up. But, you know, what is it, where is it in that interplay that you start to see the impacts of these past moments come in and start to become more apparent, and you can start to know yourself better as to why maybe things are, you're feeling the way you are, things are going the way they are.
Thanks, Tim. And I think we may well continue along a theme like that. Erika or Brett, what have you got?
Okay, I'll go. Yeah, I think we definitely should continue this. This seems to be taking on a life of its own. It's a topic. It's a hot topic. It's the basis of all human interactions, right? Understanding this unrequited love doesn't just have to be romantic. It could be familial, parents, siblings, friendships, coworkers. There's no end to it, and I really enjoy pushing the boundaries around why does it have to just be romantic love. Like, this opens up a whole lot so that we can have a greater understanding of how our hearts operate and what we really need. But it's not lost on me that unrequited love may be a prerequisite for all serial killers.
Well,
So I'm just going to end on that happy note because, I'm the true crime obsessed chick also, but there's something to look at in that.
and you, given your earlier admission of sex trafficking by grabbing girls and taking them to the boys, or vice versa.
It was boys to girls. It was boys to
boys
girls.
to girls. Okay, that balances it out then. Brett, how does it feel to be living with a self-confessed sex trafficker?
Oh, it's amazing. I love the whole relationship kind of thing. And like when you're first getting to know people, like I remember being young and just talking to women, right? And anytime I talked to them, I was picking them up as in their mind. And I'm like, how come I just can't have a fucking conversation? Like, you're not all that. Oh my God. Like, what's wrong that every time a guy talks to a girl, they're picking them up? It's like, why can't you just have a conversation? You know what I mean? Like, I want to know who you are. Like, there was a part of me that was like, I want to know who this person is. And before you even get to know who they are, they're telling you who they are. You know what I mean? They're like, I have somebody. You know, like, slow down. I was just talking to you. You know, it is, I don't know. It's, people have, I don't know what it is that the guards that some people put up or what that is. It's like, why is it so difficult to just have a conversation with the opposite sex? Why does it mean that I'm going to sleep with you now because we're talking? Like, why can't we just talk and kind of get to know each other? And that in itself, that part of the relationship, I think that's such a healthier piece to kind of build, right? To kind of know who that person is. And yes, they really tell you who they are when they come off that way. I don't know, maybe it's something I said. I have no idea. Half the time it was just hi. You know what I mean? So I've never understood that part, like why it's hard to just have a conversation and not for it to have to mean that, now we're going to hook up. And I don't know if that's a young thing or if it's still.
I don't know, but I'm reminded of the episode of Friends where Monica offers Joey lemonade, and when she comes back, he's naked, and she looks at him and says, "What the hell?" And he's like, "You offered me lemonade," and and that means we're going to have sex. My closing thought is, I used to say that love was two people hurting each other while they waited to die. And I'm now really happy that it appears we're going to go into another therapeutic session of the inner lenses for me.
Good Lord.
So join us for this cobweb sweeping search of my attic in the next episode. Thanks, everyone.